mid-19th century, Britain's trade, overseas trade, was expanding tremendously to the empire. There was a great shortage of trained seamen. The number of ships coming into use was doubling each year, maybe, every couple of years certainly, and there was a great demand for trained seamen, and trained seamen had to be trained to a very high degree. There were also terrible poverty in the industrial cities, and Liverpool was no exception. It had a large number of orphans of of sailors lost at sea or developing diseases due to seagoing. And to solve both problems, a Liverpool ship owner called John Clint formed the Indefatigable training ship. It was to train poor boys of very good families for a life at sea. They entered at 12 years of age and they did a 2-year course until they were 14. Now in later years they entered at 14 and qualified at 16, or at least they were qualified when the school considered they were good enough to go to sea. An awful lot of them went to sea before the 2 years was up, and quite honestly they were so well trained that when they joined the ship they knew more than most of the ABs on the ship. All they lacked was experience.
And the whole object of the ship was to make you disciplined and to get you ready for sea. He taught you seamanship at the age of 14 years of age, about 15. I was a coxswain of a motorboat which carried 40 people, and it was moored, the ship was moored off Rock Ferry, between Rock Ferry and New Ferry, and we used to go into Rock Ferry Pier carrying that by myself and a coxswain of a motorboat and on the river at the age of 15 years of age.
Wow.
Now when we went to sea, when you first went to sea at 15 now, you always, people said, can you do this? You'd always turn around and say, I'll have a try, but in your mind you were taught how to be a seaman.
The idea was to train them. The same John Clint started the Conway, which was a training school for officers. Indefatigable was a training school for officers but who couldn't afford the expenses of being officer cadets. Unfortunately, when they qualified and they went to sea, they could get paid as deckhands, as deck boys, or have no wages whatsoever as apprentices to become officers. Their families couldn't afford it, so most of them stayed as ended up as able seamen and boatswain and so forth like that.
And the discipline was really strict, because I could go to the mast on my own and everything, in my bare feet, before I ever went to sea, because we never wore boots, because we couldn't get a polish on the shoe, boots. Never wore boots. Went to school until you were 14 now, until you were 30, and then when you did your time and they thought you were ready to move, you go to the office, they'd find you a job at sea somewhere. And the words out of their mouth was, we've made half a man here, you go and make the other half, and don't let the name of the ship down, and to give it half a crown.
By the time the war came about, there was a big hazard due to floating mines in the river. And they saw floating mines going past, so it was decided that they would have to remove the training ships from the river to North Wales. When they got Indefatigable round there, she was found to be unseaworthy and was due to be scrapped, and she was taken up to Glasgow and she was used as a barrack ship, as a drill ship for the Navy. And the boys were landed first into an old holiday camp on Denby Moor, where they nearly froze to death, and when the Marquis of Anglesey saw them he said, by God, you've got to get these kids out of here. And one of his houses in Llanfair, which had been used by the Americans training and planning D-Day, As D-Day had passed, he moved the schoolboys into there. They merged them with another school, the Lancashire Sea Training School, and it became once again the training ship Indefatigable. And they remained there until 1997 when the school closed. In latter years it closed because there were no demand anymore for British seamen. They were using cheap labour from the Far East. It did have a small renaissance when it was a school for army brats. Senior NCOs being sent overseas on 2-year periods would board their children at the Indefatigable, and once again they got a good education. It was a tough school, but they came out men.
But the thing they taught you is a big world outside, and if you behave yourself and do what you're told, the oysters are yours, and and that's what I've been doing. And it's got me to this age now, where I am. Never wanted, I can put myself anywhere and have respect, and I'll be given respect.
I must admit I have had a great deal of experience with a lot of Indefatigable boys, and I have not found any one of them that I wouldn't be proud to call a friend and would not rely on in any conditions. They were good seamen, they were good men.